Welcome to the OA Amazing Recovery Passport to Unity podcast series. Thank you for joining us. My name is Ginny, and I'm your moderator today. I will open with the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Tradition 1 reminds us our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon OA unity. This podcast is part of a series of podcasts taken from the WSBC 2017 Forum, OA Amazing Recovery, Passport to Unity. Please join us on a journey of unity. Imagine the following. You are traveling and find yourself needing a good dose of recovery and OA fellowship. You slide into an empty seat as the meeting begins. Right away, you notice something different. Your favorite reading isn't included at all. The leader is speaking very quickly, which isn't helping your serenity. Uncomfortable, you try to settle in and hear the speaker, only to discover that she isn't exactly speaking your language in more ways than one. You really need this meeting. At that moment, you remember something your sponsor once said. Identify, don't compare. You decide to stay and listen, setting aside any differences between yourself and the speaker to look for common ground and unity. This podcast is your passport to unity. Today you will have an opportunity to hear two different stories of diversity. As you listen to these members sharing, see if you can answer the questions they ask. Would you get a stamp on your Unity passport? OA offers literature about unity which includes a common solution, diversity, and recovery. To stay in harmony with traditions 6 and 10, we ask the speakers mention only OA-approved literature. Those speaking are being recorded. It is considered implied consent to have your voice and your share recorded and posted on the OA website podcast page, as well as other podcast feeds. To preserve anonymity, speakers will use only their first name or a fictitious name. Today's speakers will address topics around unity. They will present a different perspective of recovery, and each speaker will provide 1 or 2 questions along with their topic that could be used as a writing exercise for discussion or meditation. This Passport to Unity segment addresses binge eating and OA how. I would like to introduce my first speaker, Roseanne, who will qualify and then share on this unity topic. The speaker will also give 1 or 2 questions for discussion or future consideration at the end. Welcome, Roseanne.
Thank you. I am Roseanne, and I am a compulsive eater in recovery. To relate my personal experience, a little over 6 years ago, I came into these rooms to help a friend and ended up in a HOW meeting. Since it was my first OA meeting for about 30 years, it didn't seem unusual to me. They read the steps, how it worked, and the tools. Then they shared. As they talked, it seemed like a very tough program, so much so that I went home after one meeting and had a nightmare about it. The longer I stayed and attended HOW meetings, the more I realized I had nothing to fear. Since the material I read at HOW meetings urged us to attend at least 3 meetings a week, I began attending other OA meetings in the area. Some were HOW concepts, some were regular OA. Although I began to see myself in the OA 12 and 12 readings, and I found much healing in the Serenity Prayer and quit binging every night, I wasn't working the steps or finding complete abstinence. After a while of making no progress, I realized I needed more structure to help me learn discipline and become abstinent. I began to search for a sponsor. Although there were many OA HOW sponsors, they seemed to be all unavailable. When one did become available, I finally got up enough courage to ask her to sponsor me. Using an OA pamphlet called Dignity of Choice, together we worked out a food plan that not only dealt with my food sensitivities, but also fit what my healthcare professional advised. As we talked, we set up a regular weekday morning calling schedule and began working the steps on a daily basis. The path through the steps seemed easier to me since she spoon-fed the material to me. Each day I called her with my food plan for the day, and she gave me one question to write about. One thing about one question a day is I wasn't overwhelmed with a whole bunch of questions, but only knew I had to write one question. Knowing she was expecting my call made it easier to pick up the phone and call. Then branching out to call others, as we're encouraged to do, wasn't so scary. Also, the weight began coming off. Having a food plan helped a lot. Each night I'd work it out, taking into consideration what I had available and what my schedule would be. Then, as they say, I was out of the food and into my life. I soon learned that weighing and measuring my portions not only taught me discipline, but kept me honest. Weighing actually freed me from my cheating ways. Weighing a lumpy vegetable or fruit by grams kept me from squashing them down to fit a half a cup or a full cup, as my plan said. I know regular OA folks who weigh and measure just as much as do some HOW OAs. For myself, I feel that months of weighing at home food, I realized actually that after months of weighing food at home, I could figure out portions in restaurants without hauling my scale to the restaurant on the rare occasions that I do eat out. However, I have eaten with some HOW OAs that brought their scales with them. That's the beauty of OA. We're free to work our program the way it works best for us. It took me over a month to finish the first 3 steps, after which we had a celebration called the step-up ceremony. And also, we held the step-up ceremony at our meeting, but my sponsor and I held a separate private ceremony, which was candles, lighting 5 candles, and it helped. We went through the first 3 steps and acknowledged each thing and affirmed that I accepted the 3 steps, and I really liked the candle ceremony. But that was private, and then in the meeting we had the step-up ceremony. And at the meeting, my sponsor presented me with a 30-day coin and a sponsor's manual. She encouraged me to begin sponsoring. The thought of sponsoring intimidated me, but after attending the sponsoring workshop, which included a meet and greet time with potential sponsees, I felt more comfortable with the idea and soon began sponsoring. Working with a sponsor with other compulsive eaters like myself has strengthened my program and keeps me continually learning about myself, about others, and about living in the solution. It continually shows me that I can't do it myself, but together with our higher power, I can do what I could never do alone. Several times recently, someone has asked me about the role of the how concept meetings in OA. How do they fit in the fabric of OA? Is the how way as tough and as hard-nosed as the rumors say? Since there are 3 how concept groups meeting in the greater metropolitan area where I live, these are pertinent questions. And actually, I took time to write about this in my local area newsletter. According to the how concept, which can be found online, several groups that use the how concept have published them online. And the Overeaters how concept has been formed to offer the compulsive overeater a disciplined and structured approach to recovery by working the 12 steps and living the 12 traditions of OA. All who desire to quit eating compulsively are welcome at all how meetings, whether or not they choose to follow the how program, since it uses the 12 steps and the 12 traditions of OA, as well as other OA and AA literature, just as all the OA meetings do. How stands for H is for honesty, O is for open-mindedness, and W is for willingness. These are key concepts discussed in both the OA and AA literature. Although these ideas are woven throughout the OA program, how focuses on them more. In some cities, the how meetings have been accused of being food Nazis. In my meetings with folks from other states and nations, I have met folks who've been both helped and hurt by very strict house sponsors. No, I'm sorry, let's go back on that. I've met people who both helped and hurt by very strict food sponsors. Not necessarily how, but both how and regular OA. And my feeling on this is that everyone lives in very different circumstances. But we all have one thing in common, and that is both strangers and friends, with or without our permission, have felt free to belittle us and make us feel like we don't fit or measure up just because of how those folks perceive our bodies. One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot recently is what you see is what you get. In other words, what you see is what you think you understand, but really you don't get it. What we see is not what we get. When I go to meetings and I see people, they look like they got it all together and they got the perfect life, and then they start to share and you realize how much they are suffering from this illness, this disease we call compulsive overeating, and how much they fight day to day to live in the solution, live in recovery, where it says we accept you as you are, and we know that you are working towards the best that you were designed to be in your creation. And so as a sponsor, I feel that I'm here to help folks find the best self they can be without shame or condemnation. That means as we work the first 30 days and the first 30 questions, if they tell me they went off their food plan, we explore why. I ask them if they've learned something about themselves in the process. Based on their reply, I give them a question to help them see themselves and their motives more clearly. Usually they tell me, I don't know the right answer. I say, there is no right answer, just your answer. Because the questions are designed to help them see themselves. The thing is about, we've been hiding from ourselves through the disease for years, and now we have to see ourselves before we can see how we can change. And so it has to be their answer. They have to see themselves. And some sponsors use the questions like punishment. To me, the questions are there to help a person. The sponsorship pamphlet for regular OA now has 30 questions for the first 30 or so days, and their focus is the same. Like I said, we as compulsive eaters need to see ourselves before we're able to change. Since this is a disease of isolation, I feel that the regular contact with a sponsor who's there to help and encourage a person helps break the bondage of isolation. So whether it's a morning or evening, for the first 30 days at least, or maybe the first 4 steps, I make an agreement with them that they will call me at least 4 times a week, and otherwise we contact by texting and email more and more as we get into this electronic age to the fullest. And I appreciate all the ways we can contact each other and keep in touch when we can't make calls, and it really helps. I'm a big fan of working the 12 steps with a sponsor or partner in recovery. The first time I worked the 12 steps, I worked it with a sponsor, house sponsor. The second time, I'm just finishing up the 12 steps using the 12-step workshop guide that they just released a year or so ago, and using it in partnership with the leader of the workshop and with my partners in recovery has really helped a lot to clarify what survival techniques I've used to get through, and now here we are at a point that learning how to live in recovery day to day without getting bored or thinking, oh, I need something more exciting to eat or something like that. But to really find the excitement now is in service and in sponsoring and in going to meetings and sharing and events that to keep the recovery alive and keep it ongoing. That's basically what I think is getting outside the self, because first we concentrate on seeing who we are and how the disease has been part of, affected our lives in every area of our lives, and now turning around and getting out of the isolation and into life, and certainly gets you out into life and caring for other people and forgetting yourself. And so I really urge people to sponsor first and share what they've learned, and then hold somebody else's hand, and then go on into intergroup and other kinds of service. So let's see. I was talking about working the steps, and to me the steps help us clean out the wreckage of the past, puts our feet on a positive path to recovery, and being the best person God or a higher power meant us to be. We are not meant to do this alone. Together we get better. And as I looked at the questions, the question that one of the questions I thought would be good for this topic would be, I may never use the how concept format, but I'm able to identify because, and then that's an open-ended question. And then the second question I see is some experiences I share with this person are, despite the fact that I work the program differently. And see, that, to me, that is the wonderful thing about OA, is that we can each work our program differently, and yet we are together in recovery. That's my spiel.
Thank you so much for sharing, Roseanne.
You're welcome.
All right, so now I would like to introduce our second speaker, Kevin. Welcome, Kevin.
Hi.
I'm sorry, I'm going to
Kevin.
read the whole rest of this. I didn't do that.
Okay.
Hold on. Kevin will qualify and then share on this unity topic. The speaker will also give 2 questions for discussion and future consideration at the end. Welcome, Kevin. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kevin, a compulsive eater. I've been coming to OA for about over 8 years now, 8.5 years, and I've released 155 pounds. But I was a binge eater, and I can start with my story. My story with binging. I love to eat and was good at putting food away. Food was an expression of welcoming hospitality. Questions of did you get enough to eat? And others led me to comfort, and that food was the expression of comfort and security of being loved. I had a friend when I ate at his house had the expression plenty on the plate. So later I was teaching part-time and had friends who were chefs and had a bed and breakfast. Needless to say, I was a regular there. I would be expected on time for summer barbecues. I was in heaven. I socialized at school and had friends I could eat good food with. Eventually the bed and breakfast closed and my friends moved away. My part-time teaching dried up and I started working with my brother in the family business. I was living by myself. My brother and his wife would have me over for Thanksgiving dinner. The next day, I would cook my own turkey so I would have enough of my favorite parts. I told myself it would last a week, but it didn't. I started having barbecues for one. I would buy 10 pounds of meat and cook it all, again telling myself it'll last for the week. It would be gone in about 2 or 3 days. I wanted enough to get that feeling of warmth and comfort. I was a package eater. It was a habit. I would buy frozen treats at the store and eat the box on the way home. I was always one for sales on food. My freezer was kept full, but I always left room for my half-gallon treats. I didn't want to be without. I would get the 2-for-1 deals. I would eat the package of sugar and carbs. Food with my friend. I would come home and greet the refrigerator. I once brought a whole ham to work, so I would have enough for sandwiches. My brother told his wife on the phone he's killing himself with food. I had lost weight in a commercial weight loss program. Over a period of 3 years, my doctor watched me gain weight despite my futile attempts to stop. He would weigh me, and I would go afterwards I would buy the half-gallon treats and celebrate. I was eating, working on a box of dessert, and I couldn't finish it. And I felt a little sick to my stomach, and I kept eating. That notion of, it just struck me like this is really crazy, that I really have some kind of disease, or this is not right, and I really have a problem. That eating became trance-like. It was really scary. My doctor challenged me to go to OA, and he's very persuasive. I had been seeing him for about 3 years, or I saw him 3 years after I lost weight at the commercial weight loss program, and he had been on me ever since. I weighed 335 pounds at my doctor's, and I had been going to meetings, but nothing happened. I started cutting down on my protein sizes and bought a food scale. The Dignity of Choice pamphlet was pointed out to me in my newcomer's packet, which I hadn't opened. 3 ounces is not very much protein. I listened to the group and got a lot of inspiration from their experience or their understanding of a higher power. I prayed for the willingness for God to help me with my food. And I realized I had to work the program. I got a sponsor. I I used the commercial diet weight loss program because I knew it. Then I started on the first step. I started reading literature every day and found the big book very moving. I read the third step prayer, the seventh step prayer, and the promises, and it gave me the peace and reassurance that I could be on the right track. In step 2, I defined my higher power. I listened to the group at the beginning, and the group became my higher power. But I was going to church, and I would continually fall asleep at the sermons because when I sat down, I had symptoms of sleep apnea, and my doctor wanted to test me, but I never went. But with my physical recovery, I've been listening, and the group, and so I have an understanding of God. I listen, and it's really the OA experience and a religious experience expanded my notion of God. I do 3 meals, my abstinence, I do 3 meals a day and nothing in between and no sugary desserts. My abstinent date dates from my experience with a free mocha at McDonald's. And, they were handing out mochas, so I went and asked the lady, is there any sugar in it? She said, oh no. So I drank it, and that was the end of my abstinent period. I had been going for a while, so I started over. So I call it Mocha Monday. But I was doing something about my eating and relied on a higher power, a God, to be with me. He was concerned about my food choices. I was a churchgoer, so I didn't think God was that concerned about my food. I was more important things, like the moving of the universe, and other things. But I had found a personal relationship or a new relationship with God, with a higher power. I had to have it to stop eating. I needed the faith that I would be okay, that I would have my comfort and security from a higher power or a friend instead of the food, instead of binging. I have a new relationship with a higher power, God, that gives me comfort and solace. I don't have to fill the void with excess food. I do my daily ritual. I read the OA literature. I read the big book. I meditate and pray. And I have a benevolent friend that I talk to, God, through the day, and leave, your will be done. Keep saying that. My freezer is no longer full. I don't have to grease the refrigerator anymore when I come home. I ask God to be free of self-will. Self-will with food that got me into trouble and put me on a lot of weight on me and got me to binge. That desire for more, for having enough, really drove me to crazy ends. Just insanity, as it says in step 2. But I've come away from that. I'm free. I'm free of eating. I have a positive outlook on life now, and I'm willing to do other things. I've got some new. I've been working on a new direction of my artwork that fits into my life, and a lot of people like it. So I feel good, and I hadn't been doing that before. I was really depressed and would watch TV and eat. But I don't watch TV anymore. I work on my artwork. So it's been a new experience. And I feel I have a new life right now. A new life, a new relationship to my higher power, new friends, new OA friends that love me and fill in a lot of the void, as well as God and my higher power. I have a willingness to act on faith. Faith, I think, is in that freedom from fear, is the notion that to get away from that binge eating, to rely on that higher power, and to give me freedom from the food. Sometimes it comes back to me. I would get a craving, but I was thinking, I don't want to go back there. I know where that is, and my disease is waiting for me, waiting for that first compulsive bite, and I won't go back there. I knew where I was. I remember that eating that ice cream and that really dull, trance-like eating, and I can't go back there. But I've been able to do new things, being free of that notion. I had to move and worked on a building. I could finish it, and I could fit through the 2x4s in the ceiling. They were only like 13 inches apart, and work on my wiring. I could do the whole thing. I did most of it myself. But that experience and the energy I got from being free of food and the time of eating freed me up. My mother was sick, and I could help with my mother's care. And doing that service, and also service in OA, it's really helped me stay abstinent, because I know people are counting on me, and I can't go back there. I could help with my mom's care, and she was in bed for about 5 years, so we were all taking turns at my brother's house taking care of her. And then I was doing a building and doing artwork too, so it was burning the candles on both ends. But I could do that, and I'm grateful, because I have, it was OA that was really helping me do that. I had a disappointing dental appointment the other week. Usually my dental appointments are, I have our fun fest. I have no problems. But this time I have to have more dental work done, and I'm not looking forward to it. But I'm not alone. God has given me a lot of good things, but he also has a plan, and bad things come my way too, or just start suffering, I guess. I have to go through a tooth pulled, and but God is with me. I'm not alone through these difficult times. That's what has been a comfort to me, and that freedom from fear. I won't feel fear. I know God is with me. So I'm not alone. I started dating somebody, and that's been a big difference. So it's helped me get out of myself. But I go through it. I tell myself it's one day at a time, one meal at a time sometimes. And I have a willingness to act on faith. I don't know what time. I think that's about it. That's all I have.
You can bring up your questions.
Oh, the questions. Yes. How can you share some experiences with me in this experience of binge eating? And how does my experience of recovery strengthen yours? Why? Is that it?
That is it. Thank you so much for sharing, Kevin.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, so thank you for joining us today as we explored Passports to Unity. Thanks again to our wonderful speakers for sharing their experience, strength, and hope about unity. Thank you, Roseanne and Kevin, for sharing. Traveling shows us that even though we may work a program in different ways or have different needs, we all have something in common and can learn from each other. Of course, the journey doesn't stop today. We hope you return when other podcasts are ready for you with more opportunities to seek understanding and unity in diversity. Unity with diversity statement. As we extend the heart and hand of the OA Fellowship to those who still suffer, let us be mindful of OA's Unity with Diversity policy, which respects our differences yet unites us in the solution to our common problem. Whatever problem you may have with food, you are welcome at a meeting, regardless of race, creed, nationality, religion, gender identity, sexual orientation, or any other trait. The opinions expressed here today are those of individual OA members and do not represent OA as a whole. Seventh tradition. Please remember that we are self-supporting through our own contributions. Please use special workshop meeting number 82278 when making your contribution. The World Service Office needs our support to continue to serve our fellowship. Go to www.oa.org and click on contributions. Thank you for helping us carry the message. Additional topics for Amazing Recovery, Passport to Unity, will be on the OA website, oa.org, as part of this series. I will close this session with the OA promise. I put my hand in yours, and together we can do what we could never do alone. No longer is there a sense of hopelessness. No longer must we each depend upon our own unsteady willpower. We are all together now, reaching out our hands for power and strength greater than ours. And as we join hands, we find love and understanding beyond our wildest dreams.